Hey GRD132, Typography 1, welcome back to part 4 of this epic exercise that we're working on, where we're trying to match fonts and kind of recreate a logo as close as we can by using the Google fonts, and which are the same fonts in Gravit, and that gives us the ability to stretch them and track them and move them around, and even in some cases turn them into objects like we did on the first one with Children's Place, or I did. And right now we did the sans serif part. We didn't mess with the asterisk there, or the kind of the four-sided asterisk. It's almost like an asterisk and they took off the top and bottom, but we're just using dashes in there, so that's fine. This matched pretty good. And again, we're not trying to get it completely perfect, because one thing, it's a picture on a paper bag, which means that, it's kind of rolling a little bit. But now we got to match the Shelby. So what we can do is go back to fonts and scroll up to the top and change our custom word to Shelby, because that's what we're doing, Shelby. And we're going to use handwriting, because they don't call it script, they call it handwriting. So we just have to find something that looks like Shelby. Now let's look at Shelby. We have a Y here, and that has the descender, the loop at the bottom that crosses over. We have an S that's separate, it doesn't connect. The H, the E, the L, and the B all connect. Now we're not going to find that exactly, but we're just going to find something that has the basic shape. Now it does have kind of a tilt to it. It's very flat on the top, kind of brushy looking, although these have some flat edges on them. But I guess the Y is the one that's going to be kind of distinctive with that little loop at the end. See if we could find something that looks like that. Right off the bat, this doesn't. This does a little, but you've probably seen Pacifico, and I wouldn't go with that because this B, I don't know, it doesn't even look like a B. It's really hard to read, so I don't want to go into anything that's hard to read. So I'm going to keep moving down here. Satisfy, I don't know, that doesn't look like a B either. This is a little too casual looking. That's not bad. Not bad. I'm going to write that down, because I think Yellowtail could be a candidate. So Yellowtail might be a candidate. The S is a little funky up here, and the E is not really a cursive E. It has almost like a capital E, so that's probably, hopefully we'll find something better than that. This one here, Cookie, isn't bad. It has a lot of loops in it. And notice this doesn't have loops. It just has straight lines coming up. So that's not bad, except it has that loopy S. That's not too bad. Allura, although it has a lot of loops in the B, and it's a little on the thin side, and it only has one style, so there's not going to be a bold style. Mr. Defoe isn't bad. It has a loop there. I might write it down. It might work. And I did work on this before, and I didn't find anything perfect. So we'll just find something that's close. Damien, I think I like. That might have been the one I used, because even though it's rounded at the top, I think the S is kind of similar. It does have a loopy Y. It has this weird thing where they connect here, where we could fix that. And as you keep going down, that may be one of the best ones. This has loopy, but the S is very loopy, and they don't really connect. So I would say Damien is one. It doesn't look like a B, so not that one, not Yesteryear. That doesn't look like it. Doesn't look like it. And we'll just get the best out of what we have here. That, I don't know. I don't know about that. That S, that looks a little too straight, and it has loops, so I don't think that's a good candidate. This isn't bad. Engagement isn't bad, except that B is hard to read. It doesn't even look like Shelby. And that's it. So I'm going to go with the ones I have, and I wrote them down. So I'm going to type Shelby now. So I'm going to take my text tool and click here and type Shelby in upper and lower case. Click off if you want to see the box. And I'll check out some of the fonts that I chose, and I chose Yellowtail. There's Yellowtail. And I'm going to make Shelby nice and big. So make sure you have auto scale font on, and then just kind of scale it up. Now we can squash things and adjust them a little bit. I think I had to make a different S and a different body to it, so we can do that. Although this is fairly easy to read, except for that E. So I don't know, I'm going to look for something with a better E than that, but it's not bad. I mean, the Y looks pretty good, and the S isn't bad. It's just the E seems to be a problem. So let's try, and let me change the color, because it's hard to read over the green. So let's go with a red, and I'll go down my list. I have Cookie, and there's Cookie, and that's not bad. Now I'd have to make it bigger. We'd have to kind of put it on an angle, which we could do if we had to, but we have these loops up here, and that font doesn't have loops, so that's not quite that close. And we're down to two more. Mr. Defoe. So I'll type Mr. Defoe down here. There shouldn't be many that have Mr. Defoe. That's not bad. The S is a little decorative there. And it definitely has more of a tilt towards it. So let's check out Damien. There's Damien, and that's probably the best one out of the bunch. So, you know, it has the E that I like. It has a loop on the end. And like I said, one issue I had is that I'm going to make a copy of this. So you can duplicate it or just do a drag copy. And that way I'm going to make one, I'm going to keep the S separate. So I'm going to just have one that has the S before I turn it into outlines or anything like that. So I'll just put the S here and get it as close as I can. Now I can squash it a little bit to get it to look a little bit like that S and scale it up a little. That's not bad. And then this one, I'm going to get rid of the S and just work with the other part. And again, we're doing the best we can here. Now, it has this little connection thing here. We could get rid of it if we turn it into outlines, which I guess we could do, but I'm going to try to avoid that for now. We could even move it away a little bit, although it is closer. Let's see what we could do here. Let's copy this again. I'm going to hold Option and drag this over. And this one, I'm just going to use the Y. So I'm going to highlight here and make sure I move this over here. I'm getting them on top of each other, but here's my Y. So I have a Y, and I'll get that as best I can. Scale it up. Now I should probably do these letters together, but I'll get the Y as best I can. That's not too bad. And now I have this part. Now I don't want the Y here, so I'm going to get rid of the Y. And I don't want that thing. I don't want that connector. It doesn't have a connector here. So how do I get rid of that? Well, I can select this and turn it into outlines. And now if I go into my sub-select tool, there's all these anchor points here. Now, they do have a way you could kind of erase stuff. But before I do that, I haven't even used that. They have a knife here that you can do that. I haven't done that in a while. Until I practice that, here's what I'll tell you to do right now. Just highlight these anchor points and hit delete, and just delete them one at a time. Just highlight the anchor point. And some of them, there's like anchor points on top of anchor points. So if you go to delete them and they don't go anywhere, it means there's ones on top of each other. And just keep deleting. Just keep clicking, and then you'll see them go. And even if you have to zoom in more, over here to the end, I'll just keep deleting anchor points. Now there is a way you can use the knife tool, but like I said, I haven't done that in a couple months, and I don't want to mess around with that. So I'm just getting rid of anchor points here. I'm just hitting delete, getting rid of them, and you'll see the last one when it turns blue, and there's a couple here on top of each other, and that's probably okay. And I'm just going to leave it like that. There's a little mark there, but I'm going to leave that like that now. So this is an object. This thing here is an object. Now I'm going to go back to my regular pointer, and that's an object right now. Let me make sure they move together. So I'm going to move them together, and I'll just kind of scale them up a little bit so they fit in there. And this actually worked better than the way I did it the first time. And I'll just kind of nudge it over there. Now you can see the lowercase letters are bigger. But I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm getting it as close as I can with what I have. So I'm just going to move that nice and close, move it away from the S over here, and maybe even squash the S just a little bit, and kind of go with that. I think that's fine. If you did that, if you could get to that point, that's fine. Now it's a lot more work than I expected. Now I'm going to highlight this and then hold Shift and select the S and select that. And I'm going to make everything like a green color, so I'll use this. Now I have a mix of objects. See, that's why it's not letting me do that. So I have to do this one the separate color, and I could use in use. And I could go here and choose in use. Now I'm doing this before I group them, if you're wondering why I'm doing that. And I'll make this in use. Now then I'm going to select this, hold Shift, select Help, and then select the Y, and group them. You could use this button here, and then this one and this one, I'll hold Shift so they're both selected, and I'll just do a gray color. I'm not even going to try and match it. I'm just going to try to find a gray that looks pretty close. That looks close enough. So I'm going to highlight this, I'm going to highlight this, and I'm going to highlight this because that's a group, and group it all together. So now I'm going to make another joined group here, and that way I'm going to move this down and kind of see what that looks like. And it looks kind of crappy. Why? Because I didn't realize that now the Y is a little off here. So I think what I'll have to do is click again, and kind of scale this Y down because it looks a little weird. Or maybe just move it down. I'll move it down a little bit because it looks a little weird like that. And that's not too bad. I mean, this could certainly be, if this was a real logo, I'd probably move this more because it's further away from the loop. The whole idea is fitting in this loop. So if I went in here and selected again, I might want to just nudge this over a little bit so it fits in that nook a little bit better in between there. And this looks okay there. So that's actually not bad. I'm pretty happy with this, actually, after, again, it's more work than I did the first time. And let me highlight this and just nudge it closer to the B. And that's not too bad. Considering we're just looking for fonts, you know, that looks pretty good. You know, it's not an exact match, but it looks pretty good. So that's what we're going for here. We're trying to study the fonts, study the similarities, study the differences, and try to get as close as we can. We're not looking to mimic the exact font. If we were, I would say let's go find the font and download it and use that. Or let's just draw it. You know, let's use a pen tool and recreate it completely, because we can do that. We have tracing tools, we have all that kind of stuff. But I don't want to do that. I just want to studying this and just getting as close as we can right now. And that's not too bad from what we have. So that's what I'm looking for. So that's the end of part 4 for the Shelby. And part 5, I'm going to get you started on the smutty nose one. So that's going to be a lot of work because there's a bunch of things on there. So there's all different fonts on there, but that's going to be part 5. So part 1, 2 is Children's Place. Part 3, 4 is Shelby. And remember to turn these assignments in, both Children's Place and Shelby, which are both part of ex6. You're going to want to make sure that you have your file saved. And you don't see the asterisk up here. And then you're going to want to go to the share button right here and make sure this is changed to developer. Mine is right now, but make sure this is changed to developer because I already shared this at one point. And then just hit your copy button. Change to developer first, then hit the copy button. And then go to coursework in my Warren. And for spring 22, this is still under unit 4. And you're not going to go to this link. This is the shared link. You're going to go to the assignment link. And you're going to go to add comment. And you're going to go to insert link. And you're going to paste that shared Gravit link here. You don't have to change the text to display. Just make sure you change this open link in new window. So when I click on the link, it goes right to Gravit. And it doesn't take you out of my Warren. So just hit save. Hit save again. It should look like that when you're done. And that's all you have to do for ex6, both the Children's Place and the Shelby logos. And you would have completed Smutty Nose for the ex5 portion.